Hello, and welcome to Economic Vitality Unplugged, the podcast where we explore people, ideas, and innovations driving growth across our region and beyond. I'm your host, Keith Bowers, the Director of the Office of Economic Vitality, and today we're diving into a powerful conversation about entrepreneurship, innovation, and the future of Florida's economy. I'm truly honored to be joined by Dr. Susan Fiorito, the founding dean of the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship at Florida State. Susan is a trailblazer in entrepreneurship education and has helped shape one of the most unique academic experiences in our country. Susan, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here.
Well, we're honored to have you. And we got a lot of ground to cover, so let's just jump in. I'd like to start with your journey. For those of you who may not know your full story, what inspired your path into entrepreneurship and eventually into higher education and leadership?
Well, it started by being a high school home economics teacher. My love for teaching. I graduated from Florida State University in '73 with a degree in home economics and taught that for 5 years at Hialeah, Miami Lakes. I grew up in Miami. So my love for education and the creative arts really started then. And then I moved to Atlanta and got married and was part of a family business that opened retail stores, jean stores in Atlanta, Marietta, and the family also had a leather manufacturing company. So we manufactured leather goods, belts, hard leather belts, and purses and wallets. I would sew the wallets. Again, my background in clothing and textiles, home economics. And I would design leather vests and we'd sell them in the store. We started with one store and we eventually ended up with 4 stores in the Atlanta area. That was between '76 and early '80s.
So you've got roots in the retail trade, which is a very tough trade.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it was a great experience for me. I would, after teaching, and I did teach high school up in Atlanta and also at the Fashion Institute of Atlanta, which was like an associate degree. I did that during the day because anyone who knows, who starts a business, you put all the money that you make in the business back in the business. So I was earning money to support our family. And so I got a real taste of entrepreneurship, continued to love education. And that didn't work out so good. The marriage, as you know, it's 24/7 and there were some things that weren't right. So I left the business, got a divorce and moved down to Miami and started teaching at FIU and then got my degree, moved to Oklahoma, got my PhD in merchandising and then taught at the University of Iowa. So higher education from then on.
And so how did you get from Iowa to Florida State?
So they closed my department at the University of Iowa. They closed the merchandising department in the '80s when there was a recession. The state of Iowa decided not to fund duplicative programs. And I was teaching in merchandising and there was a big merchandising college at Iowa State. So they closed my department and then my husband that I had married when we met at Oklahoma State, we looked for 2 academic jobs and ended up here at Florida State in 1990.
Wow, that's a pretty unique path, but we're glad it worked out for not only you, but for our community. And so you serve as also a professor. Not only are you a dean, but you're a professor at the College of Entrepreneurship as well as an entrepreneur in residency. So let's talk a little bit about the Jim Moran College. Okay. It's become a national standout. So if you would just tell us a little bit about its mission and what makes the college so unique.
Okay. Well, we're the only one. We're the only college of entrepreneurship in the country. And it started with a gift from Mrs. Moran, who wanted to honor her husband, Jim Moran, who owned Toyota dealership. And to enhance his legacy, she gave $100 million to Florida State University to continue the Jim Moran Institute that is now 30 years old and then to establish the first school of entrepreneurship. And we began actually accepting students in 2017. So we are just finishing up our 8th year. We moved from a school to a college in 2019 when we started with graduate programs. But we are the only one who gives degrees in entrepreneurship, 3 undergraduate degrees, 5 master's degrees, and then we're working on a PhD program.
That's excellent. I mean, the first in the nation to offer a full degree in entrepreneurship. You must be so proud. Talk to us a little bit about your approach with the students and teaching entrepreneurship, because it is taught in some business schools and in just some other campuses. But what is your approach that leads to a degree in entrepreneurship?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I do need to clarify, there are programs, there are institutes of entrepreneurship all over the country, many of them much older than ours, but they're in colleges of business, or they're inside colleges of engineering. We are the first standalone college of entrepreneurship. So what is the advantage of that? The advantage is that we can control the curriculum. When I was the department chair in the College of Business, when we had a small program, I was over there 2014 till we started the school, we had College of Business core courses. The College of Business would decide on what our students took for core courses. And if you don't mind, at this point, I'd like to say the difference. What's the difference between a College of Entrepreneurship and a College of Business? A College of Business has a corporate focus, okay?
Right.
So their focus is on corporate marketing, accounting, finance. Our focus of entrepreneurship is on startups, is on creativity, is starting something from nothing. Do we teach accounting? Yes. And we teach marketing, and we teach finance, and we teach human relations. But it is from a startup point of view. So it's a very different perspective that we have, that our students have. They want to be their own boss. And so it's very different. I appreciate what the College of Businesses do around the country, but their perspective is different than ours.
Right. Typically, the School of Businesses are programs where students graduate and they're looking to go into corporate America and work for someone else. Entrepreneurship is strictly preparing them to work for themselves.
That's what we say. However, many of our students graduate and they don't have enough money. They don't have enough experience in what they want to start their business. So we encourage them to work in industry, to work for big corporations in the area that they're interested in. Make mistakes on someone else's money.
Yeah, I love that.
Learn from them. Who are their vendors? Who are their suppliers? Who is the customer or the market that this big company isn't serving, and where there's still problems? So some of our students that are graduating at 22 years old, 23 years old, they don't have the finances to start their own business, but they can learn from others during our internship program or working for someone else and eventually start a business that will be successful. So it's a mindset.
I was just getting ready to say that. You took the words right out of my mouth. Entrepreneurship is more than just starting a business. And you said something that stood out as well. It's about solving problems and equipping students with the skill sets to solve problems, whether it's for themselves or for their employers. So why do you think entrepreneurship is more important now than ever, especially in a community like Tallahassee, Leon County?
It is important because over 90% of all the businesses in the United States are entrepreneurial or small businesses. And they create so much economic power. They hire people. They're often more stable than giant corporations that are going to I heard this morning on NPR about Intel letting, I don't know how many thousands of people go in their corporation that work for them. In small businesses, they create a wealth for their employees, for themselves, and it's oftentimes a lifestyle. It doesn't have to be. It could turn into Microsoft. It could turn into Amazon, Dillard's, Macy's. I mean, they've all started from family businesses, so they can grow into big companies. But it really is the small mom and pop, it's the innovator that really creates new opportunities.
You said another word that just jumps out at me, the innovation piece. A lot of things have changed since your start over 8 years ago. How are your students thinking about innovation differently than they were, let's say, 5 years ago? What are you seeing?
Well, I mean, there's AI.
Yes.
And so what we're providing for our students in our programs, and it's so nice that we have about 700 undergraduate students. The College of Business has 8,000 undergraduate students. So we're very small. We love being small. We love the opportunity of working with smaller groups of students. We love teaching face-to-face. So we mentor students. That has been consistent throughout all of our existence. And another thing that I think that has changed, although it was the bedrock of how we started, is that our faculty have all been entrepreneurs. So
that
they're
makes a huge
teaching
difference.
Exactly. They're teaching from experience. Some of our faculty still do have businesses. They're consulting. They're working on businesses. One of our faculty owned Southern Compass in town. So he had a retail business.
Yes.
And he was teaching for us. So, and he sold his business. What great experience that is for our students to learn firsthand how to do that.
And that's the full cycle of the evolution of a business. You start with the ideation piece, and eventually you go to your exit strategy and learning all the steps in between, or working through all the steps in between. That level of information and resources is invaluable.
Right. I mean, we do have textbooks, but our faculty all are able, one of our faculty owned franchises. And so he's able to talk about negotiation and franchising. And another faculty member was the strategic planning director for Deloitte Touche. So yes. Now he's teaching for us. So he can teach strategic planning. So they have this experience that is critical. And we try to, through the years, keep up with trends. And another good thing about us being small is we can change classes. Yeah. If this particular class that we have this syllabus and objectives for, if they're not meeting our needs now, we change it. I hear from those faculty. Those faculty come to me and they say, I've taught this for 3 years. I really want to change it up.
And I would think it also mirrors how dynamic the business world itself is changing. It is not static. It's being updated, and something else is obsolete, within 2 to 3 years. So that makes perfect sense. Talk to us a little bit about the partnerships that the college has forged with local businesses and nonprofits and public institutions. Can you share a few ways your students are engaging with the local community in real time?
So there's several ways. One is our college does require an internship. So all of our students, no matter what their major is, they need to do an internship. Many of them do it with local companies. In fact, you and I have talked about some of our students interning with you.
Yes.
And this is a hugely valuable for them. We have also worked in one of our classes as consultants for some business who approached us and said, can your students work on this project for me? That was 2 summers ago. And this individual said, if I would have paid a consulting company, I would have paid over $100,000. Your students did such a good job for us in laying out our path for growth, it gave the students a good experience, and that company felt like they really had an advantage, that there were young people involved in looking forward for that company to help them be more resilient in what they were doing. So we were, our students go to DOMI, we support DOMI through JMI, the Jim Moran Institute. We offer programming for underserved entrepreneurs through JMI. And one portion of working with this group of entrepreneurs in the community is our students mentor them. So here again, these people who want a business, who are community people, get students who know everything about social media because they eat it, breathe it.
Oh, they live it, right?
They live it. And they know what people want. They can read the marketplace. So I think we're working with communities through JMI, through DOMI, and through all of our students that are doing internships and shadowing.
That is such a great model. It creates a win-win, especially when you pair your students with the small businesses in our community. And like you said, I mean, $100,000 for consulting, that company took advantage of the resources that were right here. That is amazing, amazing. So let's shift our focus ahead a little bit. We talked a little bit about workforce, and how does the Jim Moran College prepare students with the 21st century skills they'll need to succeed, whether they either start a business or step into a leadership role? And you talked a little bit about some of the courses. You listed off several different business-centric courses, but what do you think is your secret sauce for preparing the students to either be successful in starting a company or successful working for someone else until they have the experience and resources, as you described, to start their own?
A couple things that we really feel are important that our students learn. One, failure is not a bad thing. Okay.
Absolutely.
The student who comes in first in a competition may not learn anything new from what the judges are telling them. The second runner-up, the third runner-up of that competition has the judges who are giving them suggestions on how to be better. So not winning, basically how they feel they're losing, but they learn more. That's exactly what we try to tell our students. Failure is a good thing if you learn from it and can pivot and can figure out, with help of our faculty or judges who are community people, how to move their ideas further, how to pivot. So another thing that I think that we're doing, not only encouraging students to take a risk, to try things, don't worry if you fail, just learn things from them. And hopefully when they're young, they're not investing millions of dollars into something until, they're starting small. Another thing is that we encourage teamwork. It used to be, years ago, that a single entrepreneur can start a business. That is not the case anymore. So we require our students to work in teams. And as the silos across the university are breaking down, we encourage students to look out at the whole university. Have someone on your team from computer science. Have someone on your team from engineering. Have someone on your team from social work. So we encourage students to work in teams to be successful.
And that's so important too, because like you said, I mean, you can be very good at one aspect of business, but you need a support team. You need more diversification of thought. And if you really truly want to be successful, if you want to build something that's sustainable. So, I mean, it sounds like you guys are checking off a lot of boxes when it comes to entrepreneurial education. Looking ahead, what do you see on the horizon for the Jim Moran College?
Well, as I mentioned, we've submitted a proposal to get a PhD. And again, that will be the first in the country. So some people would say, why do you want to do a PhD in entrepreneurship? Because we have a philosophy about education that colleges of business don't have. And so we need people to teach entrepreneurship who have been through an entrepreneurship program. It's exploding all over the country. People ask us, how did you get to be outside the College of Business? And I said, it was just $100 million.
That's all. That's all you need, right?
And I think the more that people understand that we are successful in building this, corporations, businesses will say, okay, I think in our university, we need a separate entity that can provide this education for students in our university. But that's why I think a PhD is important. We're also breaking down the silos. So our PhD students, typically a PhD student would go into, let's say, a history program. They want to get their PhD in history. All of the people on their dissertation committee come from history. And there's one outside person who makes sure everything is done right. We're not going to do that. We're going to ask our students, our PhD students, that they have to have a second idea, not just entrepreneurship, but maybe it is EOAS, environmental, meteorology, maybe it's social work, maybe it's computer science. And we want someone from that college to be on their dissertation committee. We want our PhD students to take content areas in different colleges. That is not happening here at FSU. But what is an entrepreneur? They have to go around, they have to know a lot of different things. So we're preparing our faculty to have entrepreneurship core, but we want them to look out what are some other areas that you're interested in, that you have expertise in, and to build that PhD program with other colleges around campus.
That's amazing. And it comes full circle too, because, once you have this PhD program, FSU will become the launch pad for people who are leading in entrepreneurship education.
Yes.
I mean, and you'll play a significant role, not just in the state of Florida, but across the globe,
Right.
teaching people. And that's one of the things that you often see when you start talking about entrepreneurship. There are a ton of books that have been written about entrepreneurship, but those books are typically, not one size fits all. And what you're doing is you're curating a lot of different elements and making it into one curriculum. And by teaching the teachers how to approach that, I think that is just phenomenal. When do you think you'll know for sure if your application is successful?
So I believe the Board of Governors is reviewing it in October. So we should know probably by the end of fall semester if we're able to accept students for fall of 26.
Right around the corner. So.
Right around the corner.
Yeah.
Right around the corner. Yes,
Yeah.
That's right.
Excellent. We're going to move into the lightning rounds. I have a few quick questions for you. And just say whatever comes to your mind first. So one word to describe entrepreneurship.
Problem solving. I know that's two, but I'll hyphenate it.
Well, hyphenate that. Okay. we just solved the problem right there.
Right.
Problem solving. Okay. Your favorite book or podcast for inspiration? What are you reading or listening to?
How I Built This.
That is a great one.
Love it.
That is a great one.
Love that podcast.
Yes. What is your most memorable student project that you've seen?
It's probably one of the first ones when I became department chair for entrepreneurship, and that's Divvy Up Socks.
Oh yeah. I think I'm wearing Divvy Up socks today. So.
And those guys continue to be judges for us in competitions. They're such great role models. They've been so successful, and we just adore them. There's others, but I mean, that was the first, the most creative.
Yeah, I talk to Mitch probably at least once a month, and
oh, good.
They're doing very well, and They are such a huge success story for not just FSU, but for our community as it relates to manufacturing.
Yes. They couldn't move home to Tampa.
Yes.
They could have moved there, but they stayed here in our community.
The last one, what piece of advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
I'm going to say two things. One, don't be afraid to fail. And two, know yourself and your skills. When I was working in our business in Atlanta, in the clothing store, a family came in with little boys. The jeans were long. I said, look, I'll hem these for you because I had an industrial sewing machine for no charge on the spot, but you can't bring them back. So it was the skill I had, sewing, that I combined with our store. We put County Seat out of business in that mall because no one could compete with free alterations on the spot. And then they'd have something that they could go home that fit them. Because back in the 70s, nobody cut off their jeans.
Right, he just rolled them up. Yeah.
Yes, but the home sewing machine would not go through all those thick layers of denim. Yeah. So we were offering a service because I knew how to sew. So I tell our students, think about what your skills are. Are they in athletics? Are they in art? Are they in mechanical, whatever? Bring those in. And even the slightest little skill might be something that makes you unique in the marketplace.
That's great advice. And basically what you're saying is know yourself and understand what you're good at and leverage that to the best of your ability.
Exactly.
That is great entrepreneurial advice. Well, Susan, our time has come to an end. And like I told you, these conversations, they go by quickly, but they're so much fun, and it's such a resource for our listeners and our community. So I'd like to thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure learning more about you, the incredible work that you're doing at the Moran College. And before we sign off, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
I just want to give a shout out to our faculty and staff who, as you know, with any entrepreneur, it's not one person, it's a team. And we would be nowhere without our team of faculty and staff and community supporters like yourself, Keith. So thank you all so very much. It's been such a joy. I love my job. I love what we're doing. And yeah, it's wonderful.
Well, that makes it all worthwhile, right?
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you again. And that's it for today's episode of Economic Vitality Unplugged. To learn more about the Moran College or connect with us, just check out the episode notes. And don't forget to subscribe and share the podcast with others who care about building a strong, resilient, and innovative community. Until next time, stay inspired and let's keep building. Thank you.